By 1490, the global economy was a closed loop, and the Republic of Venice held the keys, where the Fuggers in Augsburg were the masters of hardware, the silver and iron. The Venetians were the masters of the protocol. They held a total monopoly on the distribution of spice, silk, and incense coming from the east. For a merchant in Spain or Portugal, the cost of doing business was dictated by a Venetian boardroom. This was the Venetian Squeeze. Every ounce of pepper was taxed by a series of middlemen before it ever reached the Atlantic. Europe wasn't just facing a bullion famine. It was facing a supply chain stagnation. To break the loop, a new route was needed. Not through the soil of the east, but through the water of the west. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 hadn't just blocked the Alum. It had placed a massive Ottoman tariff on the entire Silk Road. Portugal, led by Prince Henry the Navigator, had spent decades attempting the systemic upgrade of a sea route around Africa. They were trying to bypass the Mediterranean entirely, but Spain was lagging behind. Locked in a long war to reclaim their own territory, the Spanish crown was financially exhausted and geologically poor. They didn't have the Fuggers' silver mines or the Venetians' trade contacts. They were the startup of Europe, hungry, desperate, and looking for a high-risk, high-reward disruption that could catapult them into the first tier of the global powers. 1492 was the pivotal year for the Spanish balance sheet. They had finally taken Granada, but the war had left the treasury empty. Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand were facing a massive national debt to the Genoese bankers who had funded their military campaigns. In a world of hard assets, Spain had none. They were a nation with a massive military infrastructure, but no revenue stream to maintain it. They needed a moonshot. It was at this moment of maximum financial vulnerability that a Genoese navigator named Christopher Columbus walked into the court. He wasn't selling a discovery. He was selling a revenue-sharing agreement that promised to bypass the Venetian Squeeze forever. The Capitulations of Santa Fe is the most significant venture capital contract ever signed. It granted Columbus 10% of all gold, silver, and spices he found, while the crown kept the rest. This was high-risk speculative finance. The Spanish royals didn't fund the voyage with their own gold. They didn't have any. They secured a loan from a Genoese banker named Sontongal. This was a private-public partnership designed to disrupt the Venetian monopoly. Spain was betting its entire future on a single and proven theory, that the world was smaller than the experts claimed. They weren't looking for a new world. They were looking for a direct connection to the profit margins of the East. When the ships left Polos in August 1492, they carried the desperate hopes of a bankrupt kingdom. If Columbus failed, Spain would remain a debtor state to the Genoese and a customer to the Venetians. But if he succeeded, the systemic upgrade would be total. For the first time in history, the Atlantic would move from the edge of the world to its center. This was the birth of the global pivot. As the ships vanished into the sea of darkness, the old Mediterranean order was already starting to crumble. The money trail was no longer following the caravan routes. It was following the wind. The era of the hard asset mines in Germany and the soft power spices in Venice was about to be obliterated by the gold flush of the West. Columbus didn't find the East. He found something the Genoese bankers hadn't even calculated: a continent of unleveraged assets. The Venetian Squeeze was broken, and the venture capital moonshot had paid off beyond the crown's wildest dreams. The Atlantic was now the primary rail of global wealth. But as the first chests of gold were loaded for the return to Seville, the ledger was preparing a new kind of trap. Spain had won the lottery, but they were about to find out that winning is often more dangerous than losing. I'm Edward Turfall, and this was the Venetian Squeeze. Subscribe to follow the money into the greatest financial collapse of the 16th century. The gold is coming, and it's going to break everything.